Hey everyone, it's great to be here. We're trying to see if the slides are going to work after all. There we go, we got something. All right, I'm really excited to be here and get to talk about cloud R&D at this kickoff. And I'm sure you're all thinking, well, what is cloud R&D? What is this new thing? Pivotal has many, but I want to talk about two really exciting assets. Pivotal Cloud Foundry and Spring. It's like peanut butter and jelly. They're independently delicious, and together they make a great sandwich. So we're reorganizing, and we want to bring these two closer together and hunker down and really just execute. Now we've got over 40 teams and growing, building all of this stuff all over the world, lots of different Pivotal offices contributing to this. And they're all building features. Each of these teams off building features. And if you think about it, really, PCF is the sum of these parts. Actually, PCF is greater than the sum of these parts. There's an overarching narrative here. There's a direction that we're all headed. There's a bigger picture. And I really want to dig into that big picture. Now, I shared these slides at my all hands earlier, so if you've already seen that, apologies. I hope you won't be too bored. But for those of you who haven't, I think I'll be able to really offer some encouragement as I try to address what is the big picture for this R&D org. And really, it all begins with a seed. Take that seed and we plant it. And out of that seed emerges this notion. It supports it, it informs it, it guides it, it directs it. And this seed is called vision. And Pivotal has a vision. You've heard a lot about it this morning. Vision is to transform how the world builds software. And that vision is also Cloud Foundry's vision. Whether it's the simplicity of Bosh Deploy or CF Push, we just open up a whole world of possibilities for folks who are using the platform. So for example, I have this haiku that I've put together with CF Push. Here's my source code. Run it on the cloud for me. I don't care how. Just go do it. Same with Bosh. Here are my servers. Go make them a Cloud Foundry. I don't care how. Just do it. So a lot of times the software development looks like this. You have a server, you duct tape some Docker onto it, and you find yourself spending a ton of time doing things that are not code and precious little time doing things that you actually care about, your code. With Cloud Foundry, we help you focus in. You get to work on the code that you care about. And this has real customer impact. It's funny, but it's real. Here's what Allstate had to say. We stood up PCF the same day we brought it in. We're moving from 100-day cycles to minutes. And we get to drive business as a technology company, not an old insurance company driven by actuaries. Here's what CoreLogic had to say. Some doubted that Pivotal's methodology would work, but we've shown that it resulted in a faster time to market at less cost. It's the most exciting thing we've done in the last 12 months. And without Cloud Foundry underlying what we're doing, a lot of the things we've been able to do in the last year would not have been possible. Humana. From 2 months for just provisioning the servers to delivering products in less than 5 weeks. Lockheed Martin, an app in 10 weeks instead of 9 months. It's transforming how the world builds software. So what is the big picture? And I'm going to get into a lot of detail here, and bear with me, because there are 40 teams. And if you take this big picture and decompose it across these teams, there's just a lot going on. And I want to give you a sense of just how much is going on. Because the reality is you can take this vision and slice and dice it in all sorts of different interesting ways. We're transforming how developers deploy software, how operators install enterprise software, how operators deploy services, how developers consume services, how the world builds microservices, how the world secures software, how the world CIs software, how the world monitors software. God help you all, I'm going to go through each one of these. But it's going to be fun. So let's start with developers deploy software. And the key to understanding what it means to deploy software for a developer is to understand that a developer loves their software. They love software. And then they take their beloved software and they put it on a server with duct tape And they kind of like wire it together, and then the server catches on fire, and then, oh no, they're sad. And so they hope that maybe if they just like put it in a Docker container, it'll be better. But it's not. Developer sad, Cloud Foundry want to make developer happy. So look, we made a big bet in 2014 and 2015. We took the thing, the beating heart of Cloud Foundry, that was at the time written in Ruby, the thing that runs your beloved software, and we made a decision to rewrite it in Go. And I'm so happy to say that Diego is now finally in production on PDubs and PCF as of November of last year. Shout out to the team. They have done amazing work. Diego loves your software. It loves your build packs. It loves your Docker images. It loves lots of software. It'll run 10,000 containers easily right now. It's doing about that on PDubs. And it's on track to be able to run 250,000 containers. That's our goal. So we made a big bet. And now we get to build major new platform features in 2016. And this is going to be a recurring theme. We made a big bet, and now. We made a big bet, and now. So with Diego in particular, we have a core team in SF working on stability, features, scale. We're spinning out new teams. We have a persistent team that's going to investigate what it looks like to bring new stateful workloads to the platform. And a container-to-container networking team to investigate what it's like to build secure, performant microservice communication across the containers. We're going to bring these next-gen container orchestration technologies to the platform with the simplicity of Cloud Foundry, because if it's not simple, then I got to deal with it. So we want to make it simple. And it's going to transform how developers deploy software. Now, we're also transforming how developers deploy Windows software. I'll be real quick here, but cfpush.net totally works. Here is my .NET. Run it on the cloud for me. Say it with me. I do not care how. Right. It's transforming how developers deploy software. All right, how about how folks install enterprise software? Well, the story of how we install and manage these servers really begins with Bosh. Bosh is at the heart of these servers, but, there's a but. To really use Bosh, I don't know if many of you have experienced this, you have to be like an enterprise YAML architect. And here is a world of terror and pain, unfortunately. So, and there are other reasons than just this, but we have Ops Manager, which gives you a button. And because you really just want to say, here are my servers, go make them a Cloud Foundry, I do not care how. And that's been good. But we're seeing something interesting, and I want to be careful here. Not everyone is doing this, and it would not be sustainable for everyone to do this. But for some of our bigger customers, we're seeing them come and say, look, here are my servers, you make them a Cloud Foundry, I'm happy to pay. And so we have the Cloud Ops team in SF and China kind of rallying over to help folks install and deploy their Cloud Foundry. And we're really looking at these two interesting options, Ops Manager and the Cloud Ops team. And this is what happens when an older version of OS X is running a newer version of OS X's keynote. So bear with me, because we have some missing emoji, but this is a happy, smiley emoji. Emoji, by the way, are the new clip art, except when they don't work. Anywho, with Ops Manager, we're adding a bunch of new features, tile migrations, UAA integration, multi-AZ, AWS, API support, Azure support, and it's really going to make people really happy. But I really should say we have some customers who look at Bosh and say, I love this thing. I want its power and its flexibility. So how do we do this? Well, we support PCF on the left-hand side, and we've been struggling with figuring out how to take Bosh and make it supportable. And in 2016, that's something we're going to explore. What does supporting raw Bosh look like? How do we simplify this crazy manifest generation problem? And I'm just happy to say we're really going to be investing in this. We have a bunch of teams that are going to start looking at this soon. Really, everyone everywhere is going to start looking at this soon, because we want to be able to say to everyone, hey, you can use OpsMan, you can have us deploy it, or you can use raw Bosh. And that's the goal, because it's going to transform how operators install software. But with Bosh, there's more, right? Bosh is the beating heart of your platform. It's not a static thing that lays down your hardware and then moves on with its life. It's there, and you can use it to continuously redeploy your hardware. And we make our customers a promise. If there is a security issue, a CVE, within 48 hours, we will give them a new Cloud Foundry to install. And just so you understand the scope, that's every tile on Pivotal Network that's affected by the CVE. Within 48 hours, we will turn it around. That's a pretty big deal. And over the years, we've gotten very good at doing this. Lots of teams have been investing in this to make it possible. To the point where in 2015, we had 20+ releases of Pivotal Cloud Foundry. Now compare that with one of our competitors, OpenShift. They managed about 4. That's a big deal. That's a big deal, and it's transforming how operators install software. We're also transforming where they install that software. So another big investment we made in the last 2 years, we took Bosch. And if you understand Bosch, Bosch takes like input and goes and messes with an IaaS on the right-hand side. And there's a line inside of Bosch called the Cloud Provider Interface. And we had support built into Bosch for various IaaSes, but it was all tightly coupled. So we invested a lot of effort to pull these out. And now that they're pulled out into these external CPIs, we're going to get to reap the benefits. And it's already happening. Because with these new external CPIs come new IaaSes. Now here's the coolest part. We didn't even build these. Google and Microsoft went and built them. Because we're gaining momentum in the market. And that's what happens when you transform how operators install enterprise software. OK, let's talk about services. So what are we doing there? We've got a host of services, and it continues to grow. Out of London team, we have Redis, Cassandra, and Rabbit. SF's building MySQL. New York's building Gemfire. Data loves Cloud Foundry. And in Toronto, we have app distribution and push notifications. Mobile loves Cloud Foundry. And we've got a lot of Spring-related things. Spring Cloud Services, Spring Cloud Dataflow, Spring Insight, and Pivotal Single Sign-On. Spring loves Cloud Foundry. And in Toronto, we're working on Greenplum and Hawk for the platform. Big Data loves Cloud Foundry. And the coolest thing, the lowest common denominator, is that these are all deployed by Bosch. But it's a bit of a problem. When multiple people want to use their Rabbit cluster, they have to share a single instance. And this is basically true across most of our data products. They end up piling onto this single instance. And with time, as more and more people pile on, the instance begins to struggle. Ideally, when a developer comes in and does the stupid simple thing of saying, hey, CF create service, we would turn around and Bosch deploy a Rabbit for you. But the code that you would have to write to do this would have to wrangle with this problem, this manifest YAML problem. So we made a big bet in 2015 with Bosch 2.0. And Bosch 2.0 is like one of its main goals in life is to take this and turn it into this. So we made a big bet, and we're going to reap the benefits in 2016. Bosch 2.0 is almost out the door, and we're working on a new Redis tile, Redis 2.0, that can deploy Redis dynamically. And once we have that, we're going to be building it out for all of our services so that developers can access them with the ease of CF Create Service, true production-grade services, and that's going to transform how the world consumes services. OK. Switch gears. Let's talk about microservices. And to talk about microservices is really to talk about Spring. So remember this picture, right? Developers love their software. And in particular, we know from labs and our experience that the best way to build software is to have a small team working tenderly, lovingly, caring about their software. We call this a 2-pizza team because you can feed the team with 2 pizzas. Now, unfortunately, a lot of the world exists in this world where there's a large piece of software where having just a 2-pizza team building that software would be unsustainable. And so instead, you have a ton of people building that software, eating a lot of pizza. And eventually, when you have this many people, things go wrong, and people get angry, and software gets angry. We call this the monolith, right? And really, what we can help our customers do is break that monolith and reconfigure it, re-architect it in the form of microservices. Now, you have a problem, and it's an interesting social problem, right? So you have these microservices, but what do you use to write them in? And this matters, because if you use lots of different things, they all kind of get out of whack, and they all end up looking kind of different. And then, when this person comes over here to take a look at this other group's code, they kind of get this shock and awe terror thing. And then they come back and they tell their team, and their team kind of goes, what the heck is going on there? And they all skedaddle, because they don't want to be near those people. right? Enter Spring Boot. So what does Boot do? Spring Boot comes in and says, hey, look, I'm an opinionated framework. I'm consistent. I'm going to value convention over configuration. And I'm going to give you so much of the Spring platform for free. Right? All these ingredients, you just get this nice, beautiful cake thanks to Phil Webb for this image. And what that does, right, is it gets rid of that inconsistency. And it answers this question so that everyone's on the same page. And it makes people love their software again. So the world loves Boot. I mean, like, the world really loves Boot. Here's the number of monthly Spring Boot downloads from January to December of last year. Started at about 0.9 million, now sitting at 2.2 million downloads a month. It's transforming how the world builds microservices, literally. People are using it. But it's not that simple, right? So you have your teams building this stuff, and well, where are they going to deploy their microservices? We have an answer. It's Cloud Foundry. But you still have a couple of problems here. So how do I connect my microservices? How do they discover each other? And if one of them breaks, how do I make sure that breakage doesn't propagate across and make everyone upset with that team? So Netflix has wrestled with and solved this problem. They have a couple of open source products that work on this. And what we've done, right, is taken Netflix, the best parts of Netflix, the best parts of Spring, the best parts of Cloud Foundry, and brought them together to build something that we called Spring Cloud Services. So Spring Cloud Services tries to solve these problems, and there's going to be more coming into it this year. But around this question of service discovery, it provides a registry that lets you answer, where is this other thing that I need to talk to? And when something breaks, the circuit breaker dashboard comes in and kind of protects other applications from that breakage. Makes it possible for developers to build microservices with confidence. So that triple whammy, Cloud Foundry, Spring Cloud, Spring Boot, it's transforming how the world builds microservices. OK, let's talk about security. Everyone loves to talk about security. How are we transforming how the world secures software? Well, we spun up a team in sort of mid-2015. And we're going to be deepening our commitment there. And really, our mantra is that PCF needs to be secure by default. The fewer knobs you have to configure, the fewer knobs you can misconfigure. We want to make progress on some big things. Things like ubiquitous frequent credential rotation. Things like federal certification, so that the federal government can say, yep, this thing's secure, and we can start to sell to the Fed. And we're very aware that it's not just a single team that can do this. Security is broad and ubiquitous. It applies across every part of the platform. And all of the teams contribute in their own unique ways. And I want to give you just two simple examples. The first one is this pivotal SSO thing that the UAA team has built. I love this story. This came from Adib, one of our folks in the field. I was working with a customer, and one thing they were looking for was to answer, how complex is it to add OAuth 2 support to my app? So they showed them Cloud and OAuth 2 and Boot and Pivotal SSO. It's nice little building blocks you can put together, and they were able to implement in record time. And they asked them on a scale from like 1 to 10, where 1 is a 2-year-old could do this, and 10 is I need like 7 PhDs in computer science to do this, where are you at? And they said, well, it's about a 2. Which I think an emoji is camel. It was so easy. They loved it. It's transforming how the world secures software. Right, another thing, AppDog. This is coming out of build packs, and you're all wondering, what's AppDog? Which is the right question. So AppDog, well, you have to remember, how do applications work on Cloud Foundry? You take your code, we take your code, we find its dependencies. Again, missing emoji, I apologize. And then we put them together and form what we call a droplet. And this has your code and your dependencies bundled in. AppDog comes in and basically sits there and stares at your dependencies, keeps an eye on them, such that if one of your dependencies goes bad because there's some sort of security vulnerability that becomes known, AppDog will notice and raise the alarm and give you a chance to, as easily as CF push, fix your dependency. Because PCF loves security and is secure by default, it's going to transform how the world secures software. All right, 2 more. How about CI? How are we transforming how the world CI software? Well, when we were building Cloud Foundry, we went back and forth between lots of different CI solutions. Jenkins, Travis, GoCD, these are all good. They have benefits. But it always felt like we were duct taping things together. And then we fell in love, truly. We fell in love with this thing called Concourse. Who here has seen Concourse or played with it or heard of it, right? Concourse takes the CI problem and just makes it so incredibly elegant and beautiful. We've made a big investment in Concourse in 2015, and in 2016, we're going to actively explore what it looks like to bring it to our customers in PCF. But more than that, we're committed to Concourse as an open source entity in and of itself, so we want to make sure that the world falls in love with Concourse. They've done a new redesign. It looks absolutely gorgeous. I love their logo. I just love the whole thing. And what I love about it is it's transformed how we CI software. It's going to transform how the world CI software. All right, last thing. How about transforming how the world monitors software? Well, we made a big bet in 2013 and 2014. We decided to invest in this component called Logaggregator. And the vision was to say that, hey, on Cloud Foundry, logs and metrics, they just work. You push your app, we stream your logs, no fuss. Mostly. Turns out that we have a bit of a lossiness issue. But we love our logs, so the team is on it, and they are working real hard, and they're going to fix it. They're very close, actually, to make this a reality. The logs and metrics really do just work. Now, I'm super excited to share this. We've doubled down on this bet in 2015, and we think it's going to be a key differentiator this year. So here's the problem. Developers love their software, and if you love something, you keep an eye on it. But to keep an eye on your software, you have to instrument it. You have to add all sorts of stuff to it. And now that you've instrumented it, you have to register for all of these different services and keep an eye on them. And then when something goes wrong, you have to sort of come in and do this detective work to try to figure out what actually happened. It's a bit of a scattered mess. We think we can do better because we love your software and we love your logs. We're excited to introduce this new thing, PCF metrics. Now, it's not ready yet, but the vision is coalescing, and we're going to be working on it in earnest this year. It's going to bring all your logs, all your metrics, and all your alerts into one place. I want to share what this is going to look like. Here it is, this beautiful single pane of glass that has your logs, that has your metrics, has this super cool histogram view. At a glance, I can see logs as a function of time, and I can zoom in and out. And it has a search bar. So if something unexpected happens, you just type it in. You can go and look and see, oh, that's when the unexpected things happened. You can explore and go and look at those are the unexpected logs, and you can correlate it all with your metrics. So the next time there's a fire, you have a tool, a single place to go and look to help you fix the problem. It's PCF metrics. I think it's going to transform how the world monitors software. OK, just that was a lot, right? But it all comes out of this one thing, transforming how the world builds software. We have a secret. And this is actually really interesting. And the secret is that with Pivotal, when we say transform how the world builds software, we're really talking about transforming how the world iterates on software. So remember this picture? Well, I didn't give you the punchline. The punchline is when you only spend that much time working on your code and not on the other crap, you get to work on your code again and again and be constantly shipping your code. Now, this leads to this interesting circle that I like to call the circle of software, which is that all software begins with an idea. You take that idea and you form a plan. From that plan, you begin to write code, and then you need to make sure the code actually works, so you might run some tests. Then you put it on a server somewhere so that people can play with it, and you get feedback from those people, and that feedback generates new ideas, and on you go. Now here's the just incredible part. We have a tool for that. It's called Pivotal Tracker. We have a tool for writing code. It's called Spring. We have a tool for running tests. It's called Concourse. We have a tool for deploying your code. It's called Cloud Foundry. And we have a bunch of tools and people eager to help you analyze what your customers are doing with your code. PCF metrics, big data suite, the data science people. we've got all of these pieces, and I think we have an opportunity to explore this year. And this is like big us, right? All of Pivotal needs to kind of come in and try to see if we can make this a reality, a coherent message. How do we take these things and bring them closer together? So just for example, here's one way it could play out. We'll see. You can imagine, this is Apps Manager. This is my window into my applications running on Cloud Foundry. Imagine a plus button. And here I am. I come along and I want to make a new microservice, and I click that button, and I immediately get a Git repo, a Spring Boot application in that Git repo, a tracker project, a CI pipeline, and a deployed application on Cloud Foundry. My PM comes in and starts adding stories to tracker based on their ideas. The developers come in, they click start, they start writing some code, they commit their code, they push their code, and because Git loves Pivotal Tracker, Git's going to come in for you and click that finish button. And because Git loves Concourse, it's going to come in and say, hey, Concourse, there's a new app here. And Concourse is going to do its thing. It's just going to start running your tests. And when the tests go green, Concourse, which loves Pivotal Tracker, comes in and says, let me click deliver for you. And now the product manager goes, hey, I have something new that I can play with. And they can go and they can explore it and they can click accept. And then they can turn around and go to Concourse and say, hey, let's go ahead and deploy that to production. And Concourse, which of course loves Cloud Foundry, will go ahead and do a blue-green deploy and see if push your apps to production. And Cloud Foundry will be like, hey, I got a new app deployed. Let me put down that SHA on the logs and metrics so that you can analyze what's happened now that it's been running. And when you analyze what's happened, you can come up with new ideas. And those ideas are at the core of this circle of code. And we have a real opportunity here. So let's explore what it's like to transform how the world iterates on software, because that, I believe, is at the heart of what it means to transform how the world builds software, and that is the bigger picture. Thanks, y'all.